arbitrary, I want 20 years experience doing ABC and XYZ organization, that's going to be the past. And the future is going to be building those experiences in a number of different places in a number of different ways, and coupling that with the kinds of competencies that are required for the organization. The next hurdle for organizations is going to be around trying something new.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome back to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we have a phenomenal interview ahead of us. I think it might be one of my favorites yet. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days like today, we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics, items that recruiters are talking about or will be very soon and what those mean for them. Stop by every Tuesday for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Some days we open it up for Q&A, and other days we get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. All right, as many of you know, or have seen, or have watched on our LinkedIn feed, Matt and I have been talking a lot lately about how top executive search firms and recruitment agencies of the future are going to be operating more and more like tech companies. So for today, we have a very special episode that's going to go even deeper into this as we go beyond the theory that we've been talking about and start to get into practice with our guest, Kelli Vukelic, CEO of N2 Growth, and they're an organization that's been on Forbes' top executive recruiting firms list for 8 years in a row now, and they are paving the way for exactly what this vision looks like. So pull out your pen and paper for this one. You're going to want to take notes. Let's get into it.
Well, it's so good to see you, Kelli. How have you been doing?
I'm great. It's good to see you too. It's been a long time.
Yeah, too long, but I'm super excited for today. I can't wait to get into this. And we're going to talk about a new launch that you have, an exciting new launch. Obviously, a lot going on. Some news that you had this Tuesday, which is you were excited about, but it's pretty consistent for the last decade or so. So I don't think there were too many surprises. We'll get into that. But the whole premise of the show for today is we're going to talk a lot about the future of exec search, the future of recruitment agencies, how they'll operate much more like tech companies, and how N2 Growth is actually proving that and what they've built, and kind of just bring that to the community so everyone can learn from what N2 Growth has done. So without further ado, I'm excited to announce our super special guest today, Kelli. I'm so grateful that you're here today. For those of you who don't know Kelli, I'll let her share a little bit about herself, but she's the CEO of N2 Growth. Obviously, they're one of the top, consistently one of the top 15 global executive search and advisory organizations in the world. 50 plus global offices, unbelievable culture, some of the smartest and nicest, kindest customer partners that we have. We absolutely love them and adore them. She's spent 2 decades prior in a small company called Korn Ferry, if anyone's heard of that prior. So has spent her whole career in exec search and this world. So I cannot wait to kind of get into this and see what inspired her to help disrupt it. And Kelli, I don't know if you want to share anything else in particular.
Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, I don't like talking about myself, which is not the CEO hat, but I do appreciate the kind words. I mean, listen, the feeling's mutual. The partnership with Loxo has just been like this and hand in hand for a very long time. And so the opportunity to have this conversation and to just share, the work that we've been doing behind the scenes is exciting. Yeah, we did just have a wonderful recognition on 2 Forbes lists this year. So I'm so proud of the team. I'm so proud of the work we've done, but we just have so much more work to do. And so I think that's part of our conversation today too.
I'm excited to get into that, not just the change, and we don't have to go what brought you to N2 Growth. I think that something I've noticed from my observations of talking with search firms over the years is, of course, you're focused on leadership, but you live it. You live it internally in your culture. You see that, how you promote employees and certain individuals. But what I'm fascinated by is you and why you're so driven to kind of disrupt the status quo in exec search. And I think Korn Ferry is obviously being there for a long time, was one of the few that had their own proprietary software, but you did it, you built it, and you moved forward with it. So
It doesn't mean it was
Wh-
effective, though. It was a piece of history for sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, work has to be purposeful. And so this and the change to come here was that it was purposeful. And the purpose for me is much greater than today. It's the future of leadership. I have 4 children. I ascended to the C-suite in my 40s. I'm sure my daughter will do so in her 30s. And so when we really think about future CEOs, the skills, experience, competencies that we have to build in them in a very short period of time, and couple that with drivers and motivators, which we know generationally has changed over years, we have a lot of work to do. And so being part of that and being disruptive in that was really the calling for me. I had 20 amazing years and learned a lot and worked with wonderful people. And so, you take the best of what you've learned and apply it to the future to do better. And so that's the mission we're on.
Well, what a mission, and a fortunate group of employees that are part of N2 Growth as well. And you've spent your entire career in search. Started out, a research associate, and literally climbed the ladder. I mean, and now you're talking about helping to kind of pave the path for your daughters and others. So that's inspiring. I think that's what a great legacy to strive for. I would love to get into the crux of this, and just very few companies, I mean, it's easier said than done. People say they build stuff and then you see what it is, right? You've built something and it's unbelievable. But before we get to that, I want to help people understand just how unique and remarkable this is. So Sam and I met a few weeks ago, and I've been advocating this for a long time. And I said the future of search and the future of recruitment agencies are going to look much more like a tech company. And when you break that down, from my perspective, what that means is the recruitment industry on the agency side, it's a long tail. You have boutique headhunters. It's not sophisticated in the low end. They're smaller. They're not going to build their own tech. It doesn't make sense. The medium-sized ones, though, are going to look like a tech company because they'll start to embrace certain types of technology tools. But more internally, their infrastructure, their people, their process, and even their roles. They might have somebody like marketing that really works on refining campaigns and use A/B testing and just get more sophisticated and being data-driven, more than anything. Data-driven, intelligence, workflows. And so the roles, you'll see new types of jobs inside recruitment search firms and agencies because of this, and also because the acceleration and compression of like this time to like research and source. It'll get more strategic. However, on the higher end, where organizations are larger, they have the footprint, the resources. From my perspective, what we've seen and what you've done, and a lot of organizations we work with, is they build their own IP. And there's value, you're going to share yours, of course. From what we see, though, is there's different use cases. Everyone has a different approach, which is important. There's differentiation in there, but some will be successful, some won't. Building tech is not easy, and execution is not easy. Everyone thinks they can. I've seen 1 million people fail at this. Most fail at it. It's very difficult. So Kelli will probably speak to this. Mm-hmm. However, there's certain types of approaches, like building off of an API and extracting data. And if you specialize in a niche, you can be data driven, and you can basically help generate insights or reporting, or just different user interfaces for the end client. It's better for the end client hiring experience, but also over time, that data and the combination of just kind of leveraging that is, in my opinion, what talent intelligence is all about. So that's the future. That's where we're going. It's mostly at the higher end, more sophisticated orgs. But a lot of people, even smaller ones, are building API and just simple solutions. So that's my opinion. I'd love to hear how that aligns with your vision, Kelli, and kind of N2 Growth. And
yeah, I mean, the piece in there is the question I get all the time, which is like, will search firms even be around in 10 years? And, will tech replace it? And I think the challenge is that people who have built tech have built it for the wrong reasons. And they've not used it, for good, if you will. For certain, recruiters have already been going beyond the traditional. I have been in search for 25 years. I started in this business, I remember my very first search was a general mill manager, and I got a directory of all the, forestry mills in British Columbia. And I had to go through the directory and find the general manager's names and phone number and basically put it into a glorified address book that produced a source list. So like, where have we come from there? Like a huge way. But, the ability to increase productivity is great. But the question becomes, now that you are more productive, what will you do with that time? And so you shouldn't confuse that with increasing both productivity and effectiveness. That's always the seat and the lens. What's the value theme in the statement for the client for us becoming more tech enabled? And so that's an important distinction, I think, for search consultants, because we will absolutely still have a huge role to play in the future of search and recruiting. And the very best, I think maybe this is overused, but it's true, become a trusted advisor who can translate that data, who can help you understand what you're looking at, the insights that you're getting from it, and then what you do once you've got it. And that's still going to have to be part of our role and part of the role I think clients will expect of us. Ultimately, we typically find a challenge, right? There's all sorts of challenges. And so helping to create the strategy that meets that challenge, evaluating candidates for potential, right? Just back to what I was saying before about how quickly we'll see people ascend to the C-suite, and to use tech in a way that just, helps with the task, mapping, uncovering talent, engaging with talent, but it'll never be able to replace us or what the best of the best do. We contextualize, we persuade, we understand the human at the individual level, and that's ultimately what's going to solve the client's problem. So, I think the opportunity for us is just to become even more embedded as trusted advisors and partners, with tech really helping us along the way.
I can't tell you how many people are going to replay what Kelli just shared here. And I've been hearing this for a decade in different ways, but never with that clarity. So, you see it, you understand it, but I think that parlays.
We see it, we understand it, and we live it every day.
Does I was going to ask you a bit, it parlays into like what was the aha moment that you felt like you needed to change? So some people clearly are coming from a place of fear and like disruption with AI, but that was never it. What was, you talked about it quite a bit, but was there any particular aha moment for you where you just said, we're going to build this view?
Yeah. I think, it came from 20 years of being in an industry that felt like a black box, that felt like we weren't sitting on the same side of the table. Like even now when searches get into trouble, the client goes, well, why don't we have ABC human? We don't build humans. We don't help them get experience. I can't force them to relocate. So we have to get to the same side of the table, and we have to figure out why they won't relocate, or why the individuals we're targeting won't relocate, or why we're not finding 20 years of experience in this. Well, why don't we talk about 10 experience gained in that, but the other 10 experience built in some other way? And so those were the aha moment and conversations that we were having with clients. We didn't see it. We didn't see anybody else doing it. So, when you want to be a catalyst for change, well, then you just need to build the change. And that's what we did. I'm so fortunate here. We are a small but mighty team. Maybe you would say the same of Loxo. We just have very thoughtful, smart, committed team members who were on that mission, and where it was very purposeful for them to participate in it.
Well, now I think we'll get into the fun part, because you get to show off.
What is black box that you?
Yeah. So now it's time to show off a little bit, which you deserve and your team deserves, and I do. It's remarkable. I get to see the other side. I get to have conversations. Some are under NDA, but I have for years. And again, the vast majority fail. The execution's really hard. Some companies raise, 20. Traditional search firms would raise $20 million round from PE or VC to do this, right? So people have tried it, but the execution's hard. It doesn't often work. So this is really exciting. I think the one question before we jump into it I had for you is, on your website too, n2growth.com, You obviously specialize in building best-in-class leadership teams, succession planning. I mean, you obviously you can speak to your niche better than I can. But what I struck me was how you talked about, quite simply, we move faster, we move more accurately than the competition, we place incredible talent at an extraordinary pace. Um, a lot of search firms don't really necessarily talk about the speed. Why is that important to you all? Or why is speed and efficiency important?
Yeah, so and I think it's important to also define speed. And what I mean by, the efficiency and the effectiveness is that no search is linear, right? It doesn't start here and end here. It's like an emotional roller coaster, to be honest, right? You learn things, that changes your opinion, you re-strategize, you test, oh, it worked. So that process takes time, and it can go very quickly when you have a search partner who understands the problem to be solved. Far too often is it a list of wants, and they expect that to solve their problem, and they expect that to find that in a human. Now, for certain, we all ultimately place humans. That's the world we're in. But I believe it's on the outset of understanding the problem and working to solve the problem through, and we'll talk about it in view, through the process, giving clients the decision construct that helps them solve their problem. Because we get that earlier, the search goes faster. Often you find that they don't kind of get it. Other partners don't get it until you're 60, 70, 80, 90 days into a search. And then they have an aha moment. But we start there. And I think that's a big distinction for us in that process. In addition, you have to move fast in the market, for sure. You know, it's a very competitive talent market still for the very best talent. And so our teams are rigorous in the pace in which we map so that we can get to that talent more quickly. And View helps us to pinpoint that in a lot of ways.
Okay, amazing. Well, how about this dovetails well into learning a bit more about it. So we'll get into the kind of specifics. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So first of all, for those who are dying to know, just, what is View?
So it is our proprietary platform that delivers outcomes that drives value for our clients. So what does that mean? We can uncover top talent and support everything from developing a talent strategy and a market map to things like, on the back end, comparing candidates against 50 relevant data points that helps them to make a good decision. So the piece around View that's the most important, and the message I want to hit most often, is the insights that View drives that helps us get to good decisions. So I've said you can dream up a purple unicorn, but we're going to go to the market and we're going to find a purple unicorn, but they have yellow spots. How do the yellow spots help you drive and solve your problem? And that's what we do kind of inside of View through this transparent process.
It's fascinating. Before we get into some examples and client experience from this, you shared a little bit about it prior to, but what was the kind of insight that you had outside of just future-proofing the organization? What was the insight to say, like, this is the platform we're going to build, and here's the pieces that we want to bring to, market or bring to your client experience? What was the insight?
Yeah, I think it was, back to the piece before around this black box and transparency, really particularly in the first few weeks, which I believe are, the most important time of a search process, right? I mean, and we can control really the speed of a search process up until the first 5 or 6 weeks. And then once clients start interviewing with candidates, okay, I can't meet for them 2 weeks. So that's where maybe the speed piece changes. But we really can control and set ourselves up for success in those early days. But often by design, search firms have been a black box. Where did you get your candidates from? How many have you talked to? Why did they say yes or why did they say no? And for search partners, that has felt uncomfortable because it means they have to have a level of accountability, right? And openness to clients. It's not my search. It's your search, dear client. So for us, I ultimately saw us as our role is creating the right decision construct for their search. And of course, I absolutely respect the autonomy of our clients to make the right decision for them. But I also have to recognize our accountability for the overall quality of those decisions. That's why search firms offer guarantees and the outcomes that that's ultimately going to yield for their business. And so in order to do that, we have to be very thorough in the process, of course, but we also have to be transparent from the outset. Get both us and the client, as I said, on the same side of the table with all the information. Why would we hide any information about what's going on in the market, where geographically the talent is sitting, what's the mobility, cost of living differences, compensate? Why would we hide any of that information? Get all of that information transparent to the client, get on the right side of the table, and together set priorities, talent strategy, and ultimately help them execute that strategy and search. That just, to me, made us their partner. And that,
Love it.
Again, I think the most like vivid physical behavioral recognition of being a good partner.
I absolutely love it. And obviously all of your roles are leadership level, right? And above, but having that transparency and collaboration is paramount. I don't know how you could define the best mutual match and de-risk. I feel like there's a lot of like part of this from my interpretation of what you're sharing is like you're de-risking the entire process though up front, right in the beginning, which is really smart. Without that, it's a lot of work, right? As you know, but you like codified it, you brought it to market. So this is exciting.
And Matt, one other piece there I think that's really important is, who does have the right to lead that organization's next stage of growth? How do you de-risk hiring the wrong executive who may disrupt an organization's culture? Who do we think could be an industry disruptor? These are big questions with big, risk reward on either sides of those. Us holding back any piece of information that helps a client make that decision just is the right thing to do.
Well, you see the veal and you wonder on the other side, which is, you have better outcomes, you have better quality experience, but you can tell why you're ranked so highly. It's not just view, but now you're obviously taking it to the next level. So anything else unique about View that you want to share? And kind of in addition, how does that differentiate from other firms specifically?
Yeah, I think, this is a new phrase I've been using at least for the last couple of years. So we'll see if it takes off and we see it somewhere else in the next 5 years. But one piece that we've been talking about and are trying to orientate clients to, and are doing that through View because it enables us to do that, is called the whole person view, right? What you bring to a role, what I bring to a role isn't just what's on our resumes. So understanding that for each candidate is important. So if when hiring an executive, you just use attainment, resume, titles, degrees, awards, any of these proxies for talent, which by the way is how AI is matching it, I think that's wrong. And actually, I think it's lazy. And I don't think it serves the client. So you go, well, then what does serve the client? So equating any association of those capabilities to success without any other proof to back it up felt like a hole. And so, listen, you've heard lots of people say the highest pedigreed person may be the worst fit, given someone with a less pedigree, but better suited drivers, motivators, purpose, even for me, purpose, skills and competency. So rather than just looking at a Rolodex of candidates or in your database or just using AI to source and do that based on mimicry, on title matching, just because you worked at Coca-Cola doesn't mean you're a great fit to work at PepsiCo. View allows us to tell a client, share with a client how candidates from a wide variety of backgrounds on a number of things impact solving their problem, their skills, the business outcomes they drove, and how did they drive them, their behaviors, their competencies, their values. All of that we bake in to the search process and into the candidate evaluation. This helps our clients through the decision-making process and ultimately that through View. That's important today, but for the future, Matt, I think it's vital because experience is going to be at a premium in 10 years' time. Look at the studies, the number of retirements, birth rates down, you name it. We see executives leaving the Fortune 50, Fortune 100 particularly, in their mid-50s. That is way earlier than 10, 20 years ago when people were retiring at 65. So we've got this massive departure from the C-suite and this massive push up. Well, as I said, that massive push up, if you're only measuring candidates based on past experience, you're missing a huge part of the market. And so the opportunity to look at this whole person view, my competencies of resilience and perseverance were not built in my 20 years at Korn Ferry. They were built before then. But those are important competencies for me in this job as CEO. And so View's allowing us to do that. It's also allowing us to do a lot of other things as it relates to your point on reporting, sharing the data. What did we learn about geographical distribution? What have we learned about compensation trends? What happens when we integrate leadership assessments, and what does that look like? How do we do multi-dimensional candidate comparisons? Put everybody in the shopping cart and compare against these 10 things that are important. All of those pieces are a big part of just driving that success. So for me, it's just not how you get the information, it's how you use it. And that's been the driving force behind building View.
Extremely strategic. Obviously, we talked a lot about outcomes and the client experience, a little bit on the candidate experience, but we haven't talked about your team.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes most software, B2B software is a business process software. And that means people have to use it that are getting the work done, right? And sometimes that's where you get the efficiency gains. But how is your team being empowered by View?
Yeah, so I think I'd say the aha moment for them, right? Because there's also a change in working style, right? It's like every piece of data must make it in there, because without the data, we can't gain the insights. And without the insights, we can't be strategic. And so I think what we've seen is that at the very outset, we're driving even more insightful conversation. And that's really empowering our team to continue to build that trusted advisor relationship. It gives them just the right tools to focus on conversations that are the highest value activity. So don't focus on, the smaller bits and pieces. It's like, where do we drive the conversation that's really going to drive the outcome and solve the problem? That's talent strategy. That's benchmarking for success. It's evaluation criteria. It's not slinging resumes. It's not figuring out how to share files. It's not recording feedback. It's, not losing information in email chains. It's really allowing all that noise to be moved to the side so that the team can do what they do best, which is, drive these insightful conversations that help the client solve the problem.
And I know this question, you're like, I've already answered this in many different ways, but just in terms of how would you say it improves the client experience? With like View, like when they log in and they're experiencing it, how does it improve their search experience?
Well, the number one piece is just real-time access. And we've all received a call when you've been doing a search from, a decision maker who's maybe not in every status update call, and it's 8:00 at night and goes, gosh, remember I interviewed so-and-so and I don't remember their piece and their resume. Well, the search partner, isn't in the office right now. I can't tell you till tomorrow. No, go in whenever you want. Find out at any point where you are with those candidates. So in addition to that transparency and real-time access for the clients, we are also seeing that the search is just powered for them differently. They see the candidates different. They don't see them as, resumes. They see them as individuals who are going to drive an outcome, because that's the way we present the information to them. And so, the talent that can help them grow or de-risk the before and after hiring, all of those pieces they're seeing, because they're seeing all the information. They're not just seeing a resume. And I think this will naturally lead to, I say exceptional experiences because I really genuinely believe it will. But I mean, truth be told, it will take time for them to see it that way. But I really think that clients are going to see the revenue, risk, cost problem solved in View much quicker, because they can't sit and wait for a role to be empty for 6 months, because they won't be able to get to market as quickly as they wanted, and they can't wait for their search partner to figure it out and fumble around. They're going to be able to watch their search partner in View go through this problem and solve it for them. And I think that's just going to give them all the confidence they need that their business is going to go where they want it to go.
And you have a massive advantage, because that's transformational, obviously, for your client. So I think everyone that's listening or watching this episode definitely understands now what Vue does, the experience. Now, in terms of, can you explain how this was built, leveraging Loxo's API? And then how are you using the best of Loxo, but also along with your knowledge experience of Vue?
So your organization has been a wonderful partner. And I think the piece that kind of rang true for us, even in our early days of partnership, long before we started building Vue, was that Loxo's customization and high level of customization really has enabled our team to shape it to meet our needs, and our global team's needs based on how we approach the search process through our methodology. You alluded to the fact that I had been with Korn Ferry during the days of building a proprietary database. My role was at that time to translate the needs of the business into something that the developers could code, that could show up in the database. But once it was in there and it was hard baked, it didn't change. And Loxo's customization has allowed us to manipulate and move what we need in the database to meet the needs of our methodology. Then you couple that with your API, which has now allowed us to leverage the data that we do put in the places where we want to put it in and how we want to label it with our clients in Vue. But we've not had to have all the storing, managing, cleaning of the candidate data. You guys have done the hard work there. And so that, again, has allowed us to focus on the highest value activity of leveraging the data with our clients.
And I know you've obviously lived and breathed this as well as I have. That's pretty technical for most, which is okay. And again, this is why, in my opinion, the execution is really difficult. You have to have your own internal engineers and product people and architects, and it's never ending, right? It's a never ending commitment. But the data
and your team make it look like magic. Because I am the person on the other side of it. I want this in 4 weeks. And then all of a sudden it comes and, I haven't seen behind the scenes, but I know that both teams on both sides have been working incredibly hard to solve our problem. And that's been a wonderful partnership.
Yeah. And the data piece, people underestimate that, but it has to work, has to be real time. It has to be consistent. So there's a lot under the hood, clearly. So happy to hear that it's moving now. It's out, it's the launch. I hope I can we can give me a tour at some point. We have some hires we need to make. Maybe we'll do a leadership hire. No.
For sure.
I don't want to get ranked on the 50-point, no, at some point. But I would love, can you just share one example? If you have two, that would be great. But what's a recent example of Vue and anything you want to share or highlight around the outcome?
Yeah, the most recent one that comes to mind was one that had some DE&I components because, from our perspective, when you start a search and having a diverse leader be a real key goal of that leadership team to bring on, that starts with a really big top of funnel. And we define diversity in lots of different ways, but lots of organizations do tend to boil it down to gender and race, ethnicity. So, those are important pieces. That's an important part for you and your culture. And so we need to understand that. And so we worked with a US nonprofit. It was a community health organization, wonderful organization doing great work. And they really wanted to have a C-suite hire come in to lead all of their medical staff. And they had a really hard time for almost 12 months identifying a leader. And so they had actually thrown out their diversity goals and metrics that was important for them in their culture and just for a seat around the table and another voice to just get a human. And we heard that for sure. And we, using Vue, uncovered talent everywhere from every corner of the country, back to biggest top of funnel, talented pool of candidates. Some 62% were women and 29% were racially diverse candidates. And at the end of the day, we closed the search in under 90 days with not only a diverse executive, but a woman of color whose professional capabilities, personality, personal preference for leadership and style and purpose aligned the organization's future. So it can be done. And we had the opportunity to play a really big part in that. And those are the kinds of organizations that we follow up with 1, 2, 3 years from now, because I can't wait to see the impact that individual has the opportunity to drive. And knowing that View and N2 Growth had a part in that is so rewarding, not just for me, but for the teams involved.
Well, it's remarkable to see a client struggling to hire on their own with their own culture for a year, come to you, see the process, and in 90 days, find the right hire. So yeah, that proof is in the pudding. Do you have another example that you'd want to highlight, or?
No, actually what I would want to highlight is one that's still playing out, because it's in those infancy stages, and the very narrow focus that the client had at the outset, which you want your purple unicorn. I'm all for finding purple unicorns. But actually what we ended up finding was the client needed to open that top of funnel by thinking about the experience and where individuals come from. And they were very concerned about going outside of their own industry. But if you've been following any of the data in the last year, almost 65% of people who've been changing jobs have been changing industries. And they just hadn't really considered somebody from another industry in a similar role and how that would impact the organization. And so we had a great calibration exercise that really opened up their thinking, which ultimately opens up that top of funnel, and I'm sure will lead to the right result. So as we get them, we will publish those case studies. But those are the kinds of meaningful conversations we want to be having. The arbitrary, I want 20 years experience doing ABC and XYZ organization, that's going to be the past. And the future is going to be building those experiences in a number of different places in a number of different ways, and coupling that with the kinds of competencies that are required for the organization. And you just are going to have to pick apart many different ways, but you're also going to now have to report on it many different ways. And View is just letting us do that in such a seamless way. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for our 1-year anniversary of View out in the market, and sharing more of those stories. But, we've been, live for 5-6 weeks, and we're already seeing it drive the kind of outcomes I hoped for when we started this. So it's been really encouraging and really rewarding.
Well, congratulations. It's so exciting, your team and for you, and also just inspiring your story. Like I said, you've been in this your entire career, and you're not resting in your laurels. You're not continuing to do what's always been done. And now you're accelerating the search process. I liked what you talked a lot about, is kind of opening up the black box. It sounds like a better search experience, and I don't know why people wouldn't do this, but yeah, I think when your daughters are all CEOs, the market will be even different, and they'll be using View. And so, yeah, but thank you so much, Kelli. This was incredibly special, inspiring. I think a lot of people have learned something, and we'll see how that inspires them to maybe explore doing something similar. But any kind of parting thoughts?
No, listen, Matt, I really appreciate it. Sometimes we get caught in our own world, and even with our own clients, right? That is the world in which we are, and to just step out 1 degree outside of it, even with a wonderful partner like you, and to hear that means a lot. We respect you and your organization, your opinion greatly. And so, sometimes we just have to sit back and look at what we've had the opportunity to accomplish, even though we want to accomplish so much more. And that's really rewarding for the team. I think the next hurdle for organizations is going to be around trying something new, and letting go of old historic pieces that they thought help them de-risk in hiring in the search process, and really thinking about a new way to do that. And that's going to take time. That's fine. All change agents have to be patient, and we will be patient, and we'll go client by client, one by one. But I know at the end of the day, when you and I have this conversation 5 years from now, we'll have made some pretty big impact. And so I just want to thank you and Loxo for your partnership. I sent a message to your CTO the other day too. There's just been nothing but unconditional support, and that's just been really warmly felt.
Well, yeah, it means the world to us, as you know. You and I have had some lengthy conversations about this in the partnership, and how genuine you are, and you always have been. But I'm just so excited for you and to grow. So congratulations. We're happy to be a part of it. Keep inspiring the search market. Where can people learn more about you and to growth?
Yeah, so we've got certainly a page dedicated on our n2growth.com page, but I'm out to have conversations one by one. I mean, I talk to clients every week, even clients that come fresh to the firm. I go, nope, I want to have that conversation first. So I'm keen to be connected with individuals in the market. I'm keen to have our team and myself have conversations with clients about what could be different and what is possible. So yeah, you'll find us at n2growth.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a special day. And yeah, I hope you can get back to, I know you're a very busy week.
Yes,
So thanks for joining us. And yeah, we'll hope to see you again here soon.
absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.